Pregame.com.
Welcome back to Pregame.tv. I'm joined in studio by Ken Thomson.
Otherwise known as Chuck.
Well, he does kind of, look like, Chuck.
No, he does not look like Chuck at
No,
all.
not the Chuck I was referring to. But I actually want Chuck because I want one guy on this panel that has a similar hairstyle to me. That's
You want ground Chuck is what you want.
You were in rare form last video, man. We just let you roll.
All right, guys. Well, I shouldn't stop and drink before we do the videos, all right?
Actually, you should. Drinking heavily.
Yeah. UNLV and Utah State. Ken, Chuck, whoever the hell you are, which UNLV team's going to show up? That's the question in this, because they've been Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde all year. One of their best games of the entire season was against this very same Utah State team, and they blasted them at the Thomas and Mack. But then we've seen a lot of ugly games out of UNLV, too. What are you looking on with this team?
Well, I know from calling games with Long Beach State the type of atmosphere that's in Logan, Utah. And it is better than any. I mean, been to the pit in New Mexico, that's darn good. Been to the show over in San Diego State of late, that's real good. Seattle, that's a pretty good one up there with Washington's Huskies. But this is the best, I think, the best venue, fan-wise, student-wise, up in Logan, Utah State. Nothing else there but the Aggies. Trust me, those kids are there early. When I was calling games for the beach, you'd get there and you're setting up. There's already 1,000 kids doing their homework up there if it's on a weekday night. Unbelievable, and they're there till the end. And trust me, the broadcaster for the opposing team takes the business as well. So as much as Bryan and I were giving you business on the last video, it was tenfold over there in Logan.
You deserved it.
Yes, I did.
Bryan, we're season ticking.
I just noticed he has a business card that says Ken Thomson. You don't mind if...
Yeah, no, please.
Yeah,
So,
just put it right in front of him just in case it
when
happens.
we do these videos. So.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, we were talking about Chuck in the break, and these two guys are joined at the hip. Generally, you and Chuck, and my mistake.
Yeah, for you guys that don't know, Chuck Edel's another handicapper of pregame.com, but Chuck and I have been working on the radio Friday preview shows for this is actually our 10th year together. So he's actually a power rankings guy, unlike myself, and so a lot of times I'll ask him when we're doing videos that are not going to be for games for a couple days, I'll say, what do you have? What will the line be? Not what I think it will be, but what will the line be as far as the power rankings? He's usually within a half point.
And I'll get to your comment in a second, but I do want to point out, and it's an excellent show. I mean, you guys really break down each and every game, especially coming up on Saturday. You do an excellent job. Why don't you let them know where they can find it on the internet, because you do broadcast it on the internet.
There you go. Yeah, sportsxradio.com. But the great thing is, if you miss the show, because it's 7 to 9 Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, if you miss the show, you can always go right to pregame.com. And Jeff does a great job. He takes out all the commercials. So literally, you get that broadcast and you're done an hour and a half. And we preview every single game, including the add-on board for Saturday's hardwood action.
Yeah, and I make sure, I'm not up at those outrageous hours you've got your radio show on.
After 10 p.m.,
8 p.m. I'm in bed. But I go the next morning at 5 a.m. and then I always listen to the show, and you guys do a great job. And, you're on so many radio shows nationally and in here, I can't even enlist them, but you do a great job on the radio also.
Thank you,
I always
sir.
try to listen to
Now I'm waiting for the zinger to come.
So it's now Marco 1, the rest of us, well, anyway. UNLV, yeah, as you pointed out, season tickets to the games, and we've seen it all season long. Very Jekyll and Hyde team, and we've talked about this earlier in the season. Anytime you've got new teams joining a conference, it's a whole different ball game. I mean, the first time Utah State came here, as you pointed out, UNLV just crushed them. And the Utah State team is, I think, down over the last few years. But now that they've seen these teams play, and the teams are starting to go to Utah State, which is, I've never been, and I'd love to go sometime. But that's a tough place, and the UNLV players, they don't know anything about it, and especially when you've got as many young players and transfers that a lot of these teams do. It's even in conference, so many times you get new players coming in. So that's going to be a tough place for everybody in this conference to play. And, as bad as Utah State got beaten that game, they've talked in the other video about circling the game. I know they've circled this one.
And Utah State, since then, they have now won 3 in a row, and they shot horribly against UNLV. In their last 3 games, they've shot 49% or better against all 3 opponents. So, they definitely have turned things around. Will they be able, to get the job done here against the Running Rebels? That's the question. If the Rebels bring their A game, this team does have talent.
Oh, there's no doubt.
They can compete with anybody in the Mountain West Conference. But I just haven't seen the consistency. But for whatever reason, it seems like UNLV has played more consistent on the road than they have at home this year.
Much more consistent on the road than they have at home. And in Utah State, I knew they were improving, but the last game, the way they go into Colorado State, I don't know if it was Colorado State's terrible shooting or Utah State's defense. I had Colorado State in that game, and I was never in it. I mean, it was a four-point favorite, and they were down by 15 before you could blink and never even got close. I mean, the final margin was, 9? And I think that was as close as they got in the entire game. So that, to me, that was very impressive. When I think you guys probably feel the same way. If you give out a side in a game, turns out the other team is just so much better in that game. Mm-hmm. That, to me, it just impresses me even more. Not to think that I've always got the right side, but we do this for a living, and we think we have the right side. To get beat like that, and it's, obviously it's bad handicapping on our part, but it's a very impressive performance by the team that beat us.
And I won't even say it's bad handicapping. When Creighton went into Villanova and hit their first 10 shots and they're all threes, and they beat them by 23 points, and the game was never that close.
Right.
I mean, you just hats off to Creighton. It's kind of like Ennis making that shot or LeBron making the shot against Golden State. Hats off. Just a great play or just a great game in that case.
Well, you know what? We've talked about this one enough. It's your free pick. Ken, let's make it official.
All right, let's do it. And I have been up to Logan to call games. And, a lot of these venues where there are great atmospheres at night, not the same for an afternoon game. But Logan, same atmosphere. Trust me, you have no clue if it's 1 in the afternoon, which will be the local time that the game starts, or if it's, I think it's actually 2 o'clock Mountain Time, 1 o'clock here, Vegas time. But you'll have no clue that it's nighttime or daytime, doesn't matter. Those fans, they will be there. The students will be there in numbers. The only time you could take advantage of that Logan crowd is during the finals or whatever, during Christmas break or something. You might have, several thousand kids might not be there. But their student section, they come up with a lot of original chants. You'll see the San Diego State kids, they've copied them. Several other groups that are pretty good have copied a lot of the cheers there from the Utah State team, from their fans. So those fans are there. And Marco and Brian were talking about UNLV blowing out Utah State. Yes, 62-42, an embarrassing game. Stu Morrow does not forget things like that. He's one of the best coaches in the country, and he stayed up in Logan because he loves it there. He's comfortable, but he's got all his players back. Now, didn't have all of them. Davis missed the game. He did have Shaw back for that game, but it's Butterfield and Medlin. Those are the guys that need to be hitting from the outside. These guys shoot over 45% on their home court from behind the arc. I think you'll see some of that. Now, they've got to be careful because it's different. UNLV did not have a Wednesday or Thursday game. UNLV has had this week off, so they'll be focused. They're focusing just on this game. So I think it'll be closer than if UNLV had a Wednesday or Thursday game. I'm looking for Utah State to win this game somewhere between 8 and 12 points, avenge the loss. I think it'll be close for a long time. Ken Birch needs to keep UNLV in there by blocking shots, doing what he does, grabbing boards. Roscoe Smith, don't know where he's been a couple games. The game that UNLV played in Fort Collins when they lost by 18, they were miserable. They were out of the game right away from the get-go. They start like that in Logan. Trust me, they'll be out of that one in a quick hurry. So UNLV got to get Bryce DeJean-Jones. Olakebe's got to hit from the outside. They've got to come up with the bench. And, of course, DeVille Smith has to run the point the way he did down the stretch against Boise at home when they had that 17-2 run to get that win. For the boys from Logan, Jared Shaw, Davis, they need to control the glass down low, not give up the easy putbacks to Roscoe Smith and Ken Birch, and then Medlin and Butterfield. Like I said, these guys look to come off screens, shoot it well, get a lead, rely on the crowd, extend it down the stretch, and they shoot their free throws very, very well, especially on their home court. So I will take Utah State. Chuck said he thought the line would be right around 2.5. I'm looking at maybe 3.5, 4, the way UNLV played their last road game. But either way, I mean, if you can lay less than 5 with Utah State, I'm all over it. That's my play, Utah State over UNLV, a Saturday afternoon game from Logan.
All right, great stuff from Ken. As usual, we're going to come back. A bonus play from Ken. For some reason, he wanted to make sure he had a free play on this next game.
He wanted to have more plays than Chuck.
That's it.
We're going to ship him off to Tuesdays. We'll be back next. Up Georgetown St. John's pregame.tv.